So let's talk about Leagues Cup. Inter Miami, as they do, continuing to find a way to move on in this competition. Went to Dallas. We're down multiple times in this game. Leo Messi does what Leo Messi is capable of. I mean, the guy's an alien. And for him to score a free kick, Heath, in the 85th minute at 4-3 to make it 4-4, and then end up winning in penalties, it was pretty ridiculous. And the guy delivers. And it's you think, no way he's going to do it tonight. Tonight's not going to be the night. This is the game where the other team is going to be able to shut him down. And he had 2 goals and had an assist on a hell of a own goal, by the way. A header from Farfan at the back post. It looked like he was actually properly trying to head it in, which is super funny. And if I was his buddies, I'd be giving him a hard time over and over and over. But we are close to the quarterfinals. So almost down to our final. Excuse me. We're still in the round of 16. There's only 2 quarterfinalists right now. That's Inter Miami will be taking on Charlotte FC, and then Querétaro is waiting for the winner of Philadelphia Union versus New York Red Bulls, which kicks off in a few hours, as does LAFC versus RSL. That's a really good game. Tigres Monterrey is sick as well. Toluca, Minnesota, and then Club America taking on Nashville. So this is starting to get pretty awesome. But let's talk about this Inter Miami game, because it looked like FC Dallas was there. They just shut off, and we actually, before we go any further, let's hear from Nico Estevez, the coach of FC Dallas, and his thoughts about Messi and just the game overall. And hopefully producer Alex is ready to rock on that, because he's got the bracket up right now for everybody else that can't see it. But we're going to get up Nico Estevez and hear what he has to say.
You play in a high level, the better you are. Then to have players like him here, it will make our players better, because when you have to face this kind of level, you have to do better. And you can see FC Dallas today, how some of our players raise their level higher than other games during this season.
So it's kind of stating the obvious here, Heath. Right? I mean, it's
well. He's talking about Alan Velasco, who was literally the man of the match if it wasn't for Messi. The young Argentine just elevating his level like 10x on that one. But
not a surprise. I mean, this is a big opportunity for a lot of players to play in a game where the stadium's probably feeling different than it ever has, and then on top of that, you're playing against somebody that you've looked up to, or just been in awe of for many, many years. We've had the opportunity to have a crack at Messi in our careers. And what's interesting is there's been some commentary around how some of the players looked in awe of him while playing against him. And I don't know. I don't know if I completely subscribe to that, because as a competitor, once the whistle blows, you're just trying to solve problems. And the game is moving fast enough where you don't have time to be like, dude, I can't wait to get that dude's autograph afterwards. Like, you're not really thinking about that until the whistle blows. You have to go out there and make plays. And so I don't know. I'm torn. Maybe there's some younger players that the moment was too big for them, and they're caught up in everything else as opposed to actually going out there and executing. And a 4-4 scoreline maybe reflects that. but I don't know. I'm on the fence as to whether I think that's real or not.
I don't subscribe to it either. I think, maybe there are some people that were nervous, but I don't think there's this like just wanting to see Messi play narrative is like caught up in this moment where you're just like, oh man, I'm on the field. Like, I think that's a silly thought. I do think some people got more nervous. I remember a few times when I played against, say, oh, I just swallowed a bug. That sucked. Ugh, man.
Wow.
But
bugs in your house?
I not anymore.
Where you living these days, man?
I know. I'm in my garage. It was like, a fruit fly or a gnat or something, but it's still in my throat. But when I played against, big shout, big flex here, Argentina or Brazil or Spain or whoever, like you have a little bit more nerves around some guys that you're like, oh man, there's something special to these guys, right? Just the aura, the energy around them. But you still go out and you try to counteract that. You try to like harness that as an energy to prove yourself. So I'm not caught up in that, but I will say that, man, sorry, Messi in general, when I think about team sports, right, in the American sort of mentality is like you think about when you're a kid, Jimmy, and you're playing small sided or you're playing basketball with friends, and you're like, I'm gonna have my Michael Jordan moment. I'm gonna take over this game, give me the ball, I'm gonna put up numbers. And that sort of thing. Like soccer is just too fluid and too much of a team sport, except for the very few, right? And we watched them for a decade plus in La Liga, of going back to back when Messi put up 4 or 5 or whatever on a team, and Ronaldo as well. But in this particular one, you just see a player that can rise to the occasion in the biggest moments. Not just be impactful like he is every time he gets the ball, but also just do things that are impossible, like odds wise, right? And that to me is ridiculous. Now, again, the Farfan own goal. I mean, there's been 12 or 13. I think it's been 12 own goals in this tournament so far. We can't give them all to like Messi's impact, because they had nothing to do with him, and not even in matches that he played in. Actually, a ridiculous one in the game that I did last night with Houston Dynamo, Jimmy. I don't know if you saw that, but Dynamo up 1-0. Steve Clark comes off his line, makes a mistake after being pretty solid in the game. They get a tap in 1-1, kickoff, 3 passes backwards. Steve Clark, who's not standing center of his goal.
No way.
Mikhail, the Brazilian,
I didn't see it.
But yeah, 3 passes backward off the kickoff. Mikhail, the Brazilian defender, plays one straight back to Steve Clark towards his near post. Steve Clark is wide on the other side, blindly passes it backwards in the goal. So they score a goal. It goes 1-1, and then without them touching the ball again, they get a second goal to win the game. And it was like it was so bad for Houston, who I thought were decent for periods. But yeah, Charlotte found a way to get through. But it was the 12th own goal of the tournament.
Well, that's being here in Sydney. There's been 2 of those goals here in the Women's World Cup as well, and it's heartbreaking for everybody involved when you have a back pass that goes straight into the goal.
I found the bug; it didn't quite make it, or found it back out.
Oh man, you missed out on an opportunity for extra protein, as one of our trust funders said in the comments.
Yeah.
All right, so speaking of the Charlotte team, given that you watched them play against Houston last night, it sounds like maybe they didn't deserve the results, but here they are taking on Inter Miami next. Do you think they have it in them to slow down Messi?
I think that's everybody's goal, right? Is I think we're propping up there's this narrative right now of like, you'll get a chance to play against Messi, or you'll get a chance to play against the Miami right now to all these players. But how, as a player mentality, you're not thinking about like, oh, I get to grace the pitch with this like living like deity. You're like, yeah, that's a cool thing, but I want to be the team that knocks them out. I want to be the team that ruins their run. I want to be the team that I want to be the player that stops Messi on the dribble, does all these things. When I put together my old highlight reel for clubs, Jimmy, back when I was playing, yeah, I included a few times that Ronaldinho tried to run past me and I stopped him, or Sergio Ramos tries to overlap and get me on the dribble, or Kun Aguero. Like, those are the ones that I put in because you're like, oh yeah, I humanize this experience of these guys that I looked up to show that I can compete with them. That's the mentality that they're having. The matchup right now is still one-sided towards Miami, just because they're finding he's finding a way to elevate the quality of players who haven't been that good this year, including Tata Martino contributing to that. But Charlotte still have some really good players that can punish you. They attack with numbers in the box, and where I think Charlotte are best with getting numbers in the box, winning the ball in high spots, I do think that they can score goals against this Miami side in the same way that FC Dallas did. FC Dallas just didn't manage it well more than anything, right? Every time that Miami scored in that game, you thought, okay, this comeback's going to happen. But then FC Dallas had an answer, right, to continue to pad that lead and just couldn't close it out in the end. I think Charlotte do have the quality to score some goals against what I think is still a somewhat weak defense from Miami.
Okay, so this is the question I want you to answer, Heath, and for everybody listening and or watching, hit us up at ISWTPod on Twitter, or let us know in the comments right now. Leagues Cup, out of 10, where are you rating this competition as of right now in terms of excitement, quality? You're really liking it? Are you like a 7 out of 10? Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know where you were before it started, but what would you say you were, like 5 out of 10 when it started, and now you're up at a 7? I obviously I'm here. I'm a little bit detached, being all the way here in Sydney, Australia, so I don't get to see as much of it.
Well, whose fault is that, Jimmy? Whose fault is that?
It's mine, obviously, but I'm really intrigued, and I'm trying to catch as many of the highlights as I possibly can, and I can feel that there's some buzz around it. So I wanted to get your
Well, I think again, a lot of the buzz is the advancement of Miami. That's one. I think two, you're starting to see the gaps of Liga MX teams from the worst to the best, and then you're seeing the gaps between MLS worst to the best, right? So as the competition goes on, like in any competition, you're seeing better teams come to life. You're seeing teams get better, more belief. You're seeing a little bit more of that like almost Cinderella run type of mentality for teams where they're like, oh yeah, we're in this. Like we can grind this out. We can like we can beat it. We can beat anybody. And so I think from that standpoint, and you look at the way the brackets are playing out, you still have some really quality teams. Obviously some games to be played today, but I think in typical tournament fashion, group stages, at least the ones that I was on and covering and paying attention to, not the sharpest of games. I think that's again something to be addressed in terms of load management and
sure.
making deeper squads.
No problem.
But as it got to the knockout rounds, it's had a different feel. Yes, there was consequence because it's group stage and it's only 2 games and things like that, and you have the penalty shootout and whatever. Don't love the penalty shootout. I think it's better than playing 120 minutes and then a shootout for sure.
Yeah.
I think having the offset points, I think gives it some implications of every game. But as we went to the knockout rounds, I've seen a level of intensity. Even the Houston-Charlotte game was played at a completely different pace than I think the Houston-Pachuca game. Pachuca obviously had a bye to that point, and Houston playing in that type of heat. It had a different level of speed and intensity to it, which I like,
By the way, I asked Heath to give me a quick answer. He gave me a Charlie answer for that and still didn't actually answer my question. We got our second and only
7. I'll give it a 7 now.
7,
I can't judge it as a whole, Jimmy. I mean, you were like,
I know.
I rate it on
just
A
currently. It's just current right at this moment. It's the current feeling you have. Well, obviously we'll rate it again.
Jimmy,
at the end
it's hard.
of the
I'm stuck on the inside of the games I'm calling versus the whole thing. Like
I get it. Okay, all right, Charlie
7.
Davies, a resident Charlie Davies are here. Heath Pearce.